What a wild Daytona 500. It had it all. Crashes, so many lead changes at the end, and a first-time winner. We're going to dive into it, break it all down from start to finish. Green flag is waving. Motorsports Today starts now. And we welcome you live on TikTok to episode 226 of Motorsports Today. We're live here on TikTok every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m., WRSU.org on Fridays from 12 to 1 p.m. Every episode archived YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And every episode powered by SeatGeek. Use code MTODAY, all caps one word, for $20 off your first purchase at checkout. Follow us on the socials at Motorsports Today. Find us on the web at motorsportstoday.net. With that all out of the way, Eddie Kalegi here with you, Adam Tropper, Tim Moore, Drew Jewah. We've got a packed house for a Monday episode, and we have a packed show to get to. So much went down. Daytona Speed Weeks, a Daytona 500 that's gotten picked up by the mainstream. Everybody's been talking about it, all that went down on that final lap. We'll digest it, look at the finish, but look at all the moments that led up to it. We have a Diecast of the week. Tropper will be throwing that in. And our tweets of the week is going to be an extended segment today because there's a lot of clips on social media from the last day at Daytona and the GT World Challenge at Bathurst. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It involves race control and a kangaroo. So we're going to get to that later in the show. But let's recap what you might have missed from Speed Weeks with our pit stop. So looking back first on Friday, Craftsman Truck Series, crazy finish. It wasn't some of the heroes that people thought. Tony Stewart, Cletus McFarlane both crashed early in the race, but a clean, good battle to the end at a four-wide finish. Chandler Smith, who was fifth out of turn four, stole the win one day after missing out as one of the four DNQs for the Daytona 500 to get the win for Front Row Motorsports. Then on Saturday, a doubleheader in the ARCA Series, a one-lap dash. Gio Ruggiero picked up the victory. Then in the O'Reilly Series, there were a lot of wrecks in the race, a lot of challengers, but nobody could beat the Superspeedway ace himself, Austin Hill, who picked up his 11th drafting track win. Second best rate at drafting tracks in O'Reilly Auto Parts history, only behind Tony Stewart. But then the Daytona 500, the Great American Race on Sunday, the rain held off just enough with them moving the start time up a little bit. Kyle Busch on the pole, Bart Simpson waved the green flag. BJ McLeod crashed early in the race. A few cars got crash damage in that, including William Byron and Tyler Reddick. Then it was pretty clean through the rest of stage one. Connor Zilic had a spin. Austin Dillon crashed in stage two. But then the big one struck just past halfway. Justin Allgaier, a bad block on Denny Hamlin, collected 20 cars, including several challengers. The race cleaned up from there because the cars went to fuel save mode in stage three. But then a caution set up a dash with 4 laps remaining. On the final lap, Carson Hocevar had the lead. Contact with Eric Jones. He went around, collected Michael McDowell. It looked like Chase Elliott might win. He had the lead on Zane Smith, but then Tyler Reddick at the push of a lifetime from Riley Herbst made a great move on his own on the outside than the inside to get past Chase, who got spun by Riley Herbst, and Reddick was clear of it all to pick up the win for 23-11 Racing in their 6th year, their first Daytona 500, in their first points race since settling with NASCAR on the antitrust lawsuit. That's your pit stop, and of course we have to start with the finish. And let's just start with the winner for a second, guys. You got to give a lot of credit to Tyler Reddick because I think one of the more underappreciated feel-good stories in NASCAR right now. It was not very well documented, frankly, everything that he went through last year with his 5-year-old son who was very sick, needed to get his kidney removed. And when we were at Phoenix, it was very clear that Tyler Reddick was mentally checked out last season, and understandably so with everything going on with his family. So with that now sorted out, the second baby too, a lot went on, and now he's been able to focus again. And this is a driver who just 2 years ago won the regular season championship and made it all the way to the Final Four in the playoff format. Also, of course, the elephant in the room, 23-11 Racing getting the win as well. And Michael Jordan, not just 6 NBA rings, now a Daytona 500, but even sweeter given the fact that Jim France had to shake his hand in victory lane 2 months after MJ was in court with him every day for 2 weeks trying to settle this lawsuit and change the way NASCAR is financially structured. So you feel great for them, but you gotta feel so good for Tyler Reddick, Tropper. He's been through so much. there was a lot of uncertainty about whether he'd still be with 23XI if things didn't play out the way they ended up from the lawsuit. And Reddick gets this win. Now his family's all healthy and back together, and he gets a huge boost. And 23XI Racing, if they weren't already on the map, they certainly are now.
Yeah, I think you said it best, Eddie. I mean, we saw Phoenix 2025, the end of a very, very rough season for Tyler Reddick, both on and off the track. And there's no need to continue to dive into that because thankfully for him and his family, that's in the past. He can finally move forward. And as you said, that's what he needed. And truly, I think just looking at the racing product itself, say what you want about the Rex, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But Tyler Reddick, in my opinion, drove the perfect lap to be able to win. He pulled this off, well, not necessarily by himself. He had a teammate, but this, I don't know, it just felt like it's that great feel good story, you know? And this is a guy that had so much struggles last year to be able to come right out of the gate and win for Michael Jordan, too. I mean, regardless of the lawsuit, Michael Jordan, he won on the same day of the NBA All-Star game. So maybe MJ really is the best, just saying. Yeah, no, it's a great win overall for that entire organization. Reddick, I don't want to speculate, but this could be a good sign that he's there to stay. And obviously, he's not in the playoffs anymore. The winning in is over, but I imagine that consistency is going to be there. 23XI came to play this year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is doubting that Tyler Reddick was likely going to be one of the 16 in the chase anyway on points, and this is an excellent way for him to start his season. Now, Tim Tropper alluded to it. Let's kind of digest this from a racing perspective. After the hosts of our wreck, I agree. Tyler Reddick ran one of the best laps in a clutch situation that we have seen in a super speedway in a long time, because the way that pack got broken up, it truly looked like either Ricky Stenhouse or Chase Elliott was going to win that race. Reddick made the right move to pivot away from Stenhouse and try to let Riley Herbst help, and he had two very aggressive drivers behind him in Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski too, and stayed off of the two-car tandem of Elliott and Zane Smith, knowing that, let's be honest, with this car, the only way Zane Smith was beating Chase Elliott was if he wrecked him. There was just no way you were going to be able to pull out like the two-car tandem era. And what happened? Reddick laid back and then drove a masterful 3 and 4, worked to the outside, baited Chase Elliott, went to the bottom, passed him clean, and ended up being clear of the wreckage, and a little collateral damage from Riley Herbst at the end of Chase Elliott. But got to give credit to Reddick, the driver. I know it feels like roulette sometimes in the Daytona 500, and he could have just as easily been taken out in the host of our wreck a minute before that, but he wasn't, and when he was in a situation, he drove that better than anybody, better than Chase Elliott, better than Joey Logano. He drove the best final lap of anybody and is rewarded with a Harley J. Earl trophy.
So just have to say quick, sorry, Tim, but I have to say too, Tyler Reddick, we really got to start appreciating him as a super speedway ace because we talked Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, even Chris Buescher I'm very high on in terms of his consistency, but maybe it's because he's not in a Ford, but Tyler Reddick has been exceptional. I don't remember if it was last year or 2024, but he came runner-up to William Byron in one of the Daytona 500s in 2024. It was
last year.
Last year,
it was 24.
Yeah, and then in 24, in the MJ car, the Air Jordan logo, he won at Talladega. And I saw this stat today. Don't quote me on who it was, but you guys maybe saw this too. Reddick has won the Daytona February race in every series. He won back in the day for Brad Keselowski in the truck
all
series.
Three different manufacturers.
Exactly.
Too.
And in 2018, who can forget that win over Elliott Sadler, the closest NASCAR finish of all time between any of the three series? I still believe it has the record over Kansas. Point being is that Reddick is one of those guys now that I think you have to assume is always going to be at the front at Daytona.
I'm not going to counter that point, but it is also a reminder that when Tyler Reddick first joined 23XI, Michael Jordan was constantly making fun of him for his lack of super speedway ability, in my opinion, even though despite those accomplishments. And the fact that we sit here, what is it now, 4 years, right? Is that master, right? 4 years later,
yes.
Since joining 23XI, the fact that he can walk out a Daytona 500 champion is remarkable. And Eddie, we'll talk about the last lap in a moment. But you guys talked about Reddick at the end of last season. I mean, I sat there in Kansas, and I've talked about this multiple times on this show. That man, everything he was going through between the family situation, everything, it was almost very similar, to how I felt about Chris Buescher at the end of the regular season last year, where you can just tell he was mentally drained. And not that the track was the last place he ever wanted to be at, but it was just the mind space of like, am I ever going to find victory lane? In the case of Reddick last year, I mean, he was consistent. but there was never winning pace out of the 45. They were good, but they were never the guy. And of course, they never found victory lane. And of course, you think about that moment going back to Homestead, back at the end of the 2024 season, where he makes a spectacular move. Yeah, they don't win the championship, but then the season's a downfall from that. And for them to go into Daytona and, give themselves all three cars a chance, as much as we've talked about Riley Herbst and his struggles of what could happen. I mean, this was Riley's best race last year. Remember, he could have finished top 5 in the 2025 Daytona 500. For him, for Bubba could have had a chance to win this race too, had he not had to slow down for the crash. And really, had he opted to not slow down, he may have gotten a top 5 and could have been the one pushing Tyler Reddick to the win there. So I put it like this: 23-11, they stepped up to the occasion, and now talking about the last lap, guys.
Yes.
So I have a little bit of a disagreement on this part. Yes, Tyler Reddick runs the best last lap, but I think we're giving a little too much credit, because in my opinion, yes, Tyler Reddick moves the lanes and opts to go to get the 35 to push him. But in my opinion, he doesn't lift. The person who sells this race from the front standpoint, in the front, in my opinion, is Zane Smith. You cannot convince me Zane Smith to not back off thinking he was going to get a push, because that is the perspective I got. He did not get broken up from Chase Elliott. He dragged the brake thinking Tyler Reddick was going to push him. And that's a learning point from Zane Smith, not, competing at this point in his Cup Series careers for wins on a constant basis. Although we have to give him credit. He's been a very stout super speedway racer in his short career with this team. But that's just a moment right there of learning experience where he dragged, and guess what? He didn't know there was 2 teammates behind him. He may knew Reddick was behind him, but not another 2311 car. And that's ultimately what sold him and sold Chase Elliott, in my opinion, the Daytona 500. But regardless, the dedication of teamwork, and I know how Brad Keselowski feels, because listen, maybe if Riley Herbst doesn't block Brad Keselowski, maybe Brad Keselowski wins the Daytona 500. We don't know. But at the end of the day, you found 2 cars in the right spot in the right time. And I think that's the part where I know Michael Jordan mentioned it's not going to get a lot of headlines, but Riley Herbst is a big reason why Tyler Reddick won the Daytona 500. I think that's truthfully the story, is that Riley Herbst and the 22311 cars in general were the right place, right time to capitalize and put together the perfect moment in the perfect opportunity. And that's what they did. And they won the Daytona 500. It was a team effort. That's what Jordan emphasizes, a team effort.
Yeah, and that's a good summary, because, Drew, this is a big week for all 4 2311 cars. Riley Herbst needed this, and he gets the endorsement from Michael Jordan in the interview post-race, and especially with all of us being very critical of Riley Herbst, and I don't really know where he goes from here, and he has finished in the top 10 in the 500 before, but he ran very well. To the point of the Keselowski thing, I think the whole comment was just a heat-of-the-moment deal. I mean, let's be honest, everybody's going for the 500, everybody's going for a super speedway win. 17 years ago, Brad Keselowski launched a guy 15 feet in the air for a win. So let's be honest here. But Herbst ran a great race, Drew. Bubba Wallace was, I know, the fuel saving got him to the front for a while, but he did lead the most laps. And even Corey Heim, we talked about how much he shined on Wednesday in qualifying, and I know he took out Denny Hamlin, but he had his moments too. Overall, just this.
Can I also say too,
yeah,
if Corey Heim doesn't get clipped, he as well may get a top 10 in the 500, because he barely just got involved in that last track.
Yes, he almost got through. But I mean, Drew, this is just such an accomplishment for a 2311 team that's trying to prove that it can eventually be one of the big dogs with Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, and Penske, and right now might be in the position to be the team that can challenge those 3 the most.
Yeah, I gotta give credit to 23XI and both front row and RCR. I mean, if you think about it from the NASCAR standpoint, it's kind of funny that RCR wins the Xfinity race, front row wins the truck race, and then you have 23XI winning the 500. What do all 3 have in common? The lawsuit. I mean, they both, and it's funny, the stages were won by the lawsuit team, so just funny how it all played out. But going back to the 23XI, I mean, they've shown a lot of improvement, especially in this next gen car. I feel like Bubba Wallace has kind of turned a new page. He's continued to improve. I mean, he won the Indy 500 last year. He gave himself a chance this year in the 500. But going back a little bit, I feel like with this next gen car, while Tyler Reddick is a great plate race driver, I feel like in this car, in this era, almost anybody can shine. I mean, you constantly see everybody up near the front. Granted, you've had 4 or 5 years now to kind of perfect your craft, but 23XI puts himself in the right position. This is like Timmy said, this is the best race that Riley Herbst has run. It's not even close. So for him to have a shot at the 500, I mean, there was what 5, 6 cars at the end there that had a chance to win if not for the big crash. So, got to give props to NASCAR for letting them race back. I mean, with how Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell wrecked. I mean, looking at an infield video, I mean, Eric Jones and Carson Hocevar are flying towards the inside wall, and they kept it green, and props to NASCAR for that. But it's just a huge congratulations, Tyler Reddick. I mean, like you guys said, a lot of adversity these last couple months, and for him to win the biggest race of the year is a testament to his team.
Yeah.
Can I also say something to Drew's point real quick, Eddie?
Yeah.
That was one commonality thing that I was actually very surprised that I saw from a lot of drivers at the end of the race. They were all surprised the caution didn't come out.
Yes.
Like, genuinely. So that was the one thing. They're like, oh, once they, got out of the turn 2 and they didn't hear it, they're like, okay, we're racing to the end. But it seemed like the commonality, even Tyler Reddick himself said it. They thought the caution was going to come out. It was going to be a stalemate of whoever was there at the right spot, right time. And maybe it probably would have been Ricky Stenhouse, maybe at that moment. I'm not sure.
I think it was him or Chase Elliott.
But either way, and another thing that's going underappreciated too, I just have to say this, I know he's the sport's most popular driver, and not a lot of people may have been popular. Chase Elliott won the Daytona 500, just like how he won Atlanta. But Chase Elliott, you got to give some credit to. He could have made the world's worst block there for a crown jewel win, and yet he took the big picture decision and accepted defeat and put himself, even though, yes, he gets involved, he's a victim of a wreck. But had he made a bad block there, all I'm saying is Chase Elliott very well couldn't have finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
And that could have been a championship. Like, I'm saying people underestimate with this new format, these first 2 races, especially Daytona and Atlanta, where aggression can sometimes take you out of things. That could be a championship crowning moment in 2025 for Chase Elliott, is all I'm saying. Or 2026, excuse me, for Chase Elliott when we look back at the end of this regular season by opting to not make a crazy block there just because it's the Daytona 500.
Yeah. Now, Tropper, and also another one like that, Kyle Busch, this video that's kind of gone everywhere. I know a lot of people would be kind of upset that he literally decided to back out, but he ended up netting himself positions by staying out of the pack. And again, in this format, that helps. We're going to see a lot of little strategy things that differ because of the format. Something else that I kind of thought about was the end of stage 1, where besides a little desperate right at the end with Austin Cindric, nobody really challenged Zane Smith. And that wasn't necessarily a Ford thing. That's because it's only 1 point on the line. Remember, stage wins do not net you playoff points come September anymore for the chase. So I almost feel like there might be a strategy play now where it might not be as aggressive for stage wins, especially at the super speedways, because it's just the 10 points and it would just be 1 additional point at this point. So I kind of like that from the perspective that we're probably not going to see as many wrecks at the end of stages, which can get frustrating. The thing that did frustrate me, though, Tropper, a little bit in this race, it's not the end of the world because it was only about 40 laps of the 200, was the fuel saving. And that's why my only, solution to this at this point, because clearly stages are here to stay, and I do think there is benefit to stage points in the points-based format that we have now. Don't throw a caution for the stages. Continue to keep the variables of you don't know when you're going to have a pit stop.
I have a solution for this, by the way, after Tropper gives his points, because I think that you can actually still find a way to throw cautions in this, in my opinion, and cannot change the format drastically.
That's interesting, and I want to hear that because Eddie, you kind of stole my point there. I mean, first off, I'll say with the stages, the less aggression, points racing, and consistency. This is what this format is supposed to encourage, and that is what I love about it. It's more real, it's more raw. You have to, you can't necessarily take the risks for 1 playoff point or locking yourself in. Like people, if this was 2 years ago and Zane Smith won the Daytona 500 like Harrison Burton did, knowing that Zane or even Riley Herbst that they would probably be like in the low 20s in points, it would have a weird sting. But regardless of the winner, this time around, the points racing is so important. And also keep in mind, 1 point, if you look at the regular season totals for the first 26 races, when it's on the broadcast and they count it before the playoffs reset everything, usually and don't quote me on the math here, but the regular season champion usually has around 800 to 900 points. So only 1 point differential when you're going all the way down the leaderboard. Yeah, you want as many points as possible, but you got to play it safe. And I imagine we're going to see a really good points battle, both for the regular season championship and the points bubble for 6 teams. So I'm going to predict that right now, that it's going to come down to the wire one way or another. But yeah, stage cautions, that's the biggest thing that has to go. And I was actually talking about it with someone else prior to going on air, just because I was thinking back to 2024, where the road courses, they took away the stage cautions, but kept awarding the stage points. We have seen NASCAR experiment with this before, and I thought those were the best road course races, because especially with Daytona, and now I'll get into the fuel saving with the drafting, Eddie, but it's so forced. Stage one, you fuel save. You take one quick pit stop, get to the end, and there's no room for differing strategies. Everyone's doing the same thing, and I just think the cautions open up the flexibility. Yeah, you could go for the points if you want, but you can't plan, or you shouldn't be able to plan for a pit stop on lap 40 knowing that there's going to be a guaranteed cost and another time to pit without losing track position. That's what bugs me the most, and that's why I think, frankly, the cautions need to go. In terms of the fuel saving itself, I do not have that big of a problem with it, in all honesty, and this is an overall unpopular opinion. I know Eric Estep, I believe he said something similar to where I'm going to go with this. But the fuel saving compared to 2013, 2014, I believe, at the beginning of the Gen 6, when cars were just single file for 100 laps, going around the top lane. People were complaining about that. And this, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is weird that they're running laps that are 4 to 5 seconds slower than their fastest. But at the same time, I prefer to have 160 miles an hour free wide where they can actually move positions, as opposed to single file the whole time. And for the casuals, NASCAR is trying to bring in a younger demographic here. And as much as I hate to say, with people's lower attention spans, so having side by side throughout the majority of the race is not a bad thing at all. I had some friends that watched the end of a race and who do not give a you-know-what about NASCAR normally. And they're like, oh, wow, that was actually pretty cool. And I don't know if part of it was the fuel saving, part of it was the wrecks at the end. But regardless, I think the product is not bad right now. I think if stage cautions can go, or Tim, maybe we'll hear your better solution in a second. I think if there's something to mitigate that forced strategy, I think we're fine.
Well, now my plan to this. I understand a lot of people want a full 200 lap race and you just deliver stage points on the given laps. But I'm going to be honest with you. You can't race one way and then do it the other 35 differently. In my truthful opinion, the best way you can fix this issue in the Daytona 500 is simply moving the stage distances. For example, when we look at the duels, okay, the duels are 60 laps each. Well, why is everybody sitting there and saving gas? Because they know they have one stop. It's going to be a fuel-only stop, and they're trying to put the least amount of gas possible to get to the end. Well, I'm just going to sit here and say this. What if we don't have any pit stops in stage 1 and 2? What if stage 1's 40 laps long, stage 2's 40 laps long? We're 80 laps into the Daytona 500 and stage 1 and 2 are gone. There's no pit stops required except between the stages, right? So there's no saving gas. You're easily in the fuel window. That leaves 120 laps. Now, let's say even if you leave off, because obviously NASCAR doesn't stop the lap counter when the stages end, which is another dispute by a lot of people as well. But, okay, let's say we go back to green with 115 laps to go in the Daytona 500. Well, here's the reality, okay? If they were going, let's say, full pushing pace, it took, 47, 48 laps on the tank if they were pushing full on. Now, I think what Michael McDowell did,
58 laps.
58, yes. Thank you, yesterday. You have to remember, they knocked it down to a 49-second pace in the pack, which is ridiculously slow. That's almost equivalent to their qualifying times. Again, I'll put it like this. You can't get away with that in a 120-lap final stage. And here's the reason why I say it. Yeah, you could try to go 60 laps on a tank of gas and try to one-stop it, but the pace you're going to have to go is so astronomically slow. And what it creates, for example, you mentioned, I mean, we heard about Brad Keselowski the most yesterday, complaining about, hey, we got the fourth lineup. We need to go, 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 go. Guess what? It's very different trying to save gas to minimize your last pit stop to try to get out track position to come out first. It's another thing when you have to refill the tank and everybody's going to be even anyways to go out there. So hence the reason why I'm saying, yeah, you could try to fuel save in the Daytona 500, but teams, if you have a elongated stage of 120 laps, they're going to have to push to two-stop it because that's the more optimal strategy. And sure, okay, if a caution comes out and a fuel safe scenario comes up, so be it, because guess what? That's racing, right? If a caution comes out, it is what it is. But I think NASCAR's simplest option is just shortening these stages so they don't have to pit in stage 1 and stage 2, and that makes stage 2 so much longer, and that will mitigate out most of the bad fuel saving we're seeing. And if we get to that point again, it's natural at that point, so who cares?
I just want to give my little point on this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cover Tropper first and then Timmy. At the end of the day, no matter what the stages are, if there's a yellow, if there's not a yellow, there will always be fuel saving. With how these tanks are, you are trying to get the least gas in. So you're going to have fuel saving. And even if we go to a 120 lap stage, people are going to try and go half throttle. Maybe not the whole pack, but you are going to see people go 50 to 55 laps on a tank.
Everybody's going to try
because they're trying to get as little gas in the tank. So no matter what the stages are, no matter if you make it 40, no matter if you make it 50, no matter if you make it 60, you're still going to have fuel saving because it's all about track position when it comes to the end of the race. And that's just how it is at the end of the day. I mean, no matter what we do with this stage racing, there will always be fuel saving, and that's just how it's going to be.
Which is why I don't have a problem with the fuel saving strategy in itself. Like I said, I prefer the side by side what they're doing. I'm just saying from the racing product and how it's perceived by the fans and just actually how the race flow goes. I mean, I still prefer this over what we had in 2013 with single file.
Oh, 100%. I agree. I mean, when we saw the 4x4, was it Talladega? I think it was Daytona, right?
Talladega.
Yeah.
Talladega
was
4x4.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but that's still cool. Like, you could post that on Instagram or post that on Twitter or anything like that, and people are going to like it because it's four-wide racing at a racetrack. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I mean, it's a much better product than the single file, but there's just nothing we could do. It's just shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
How many laps was the last stage? Was it 80 yesterday? I forget. I'm sorry.
So it's 60, 65.
60,
I think
80.
it's
Yeah.
It was like 75 or 80.
So hence, we're still talking about a one-lap window, not to interrupt Drew. Or I should say a one-stop window. Where, again, that's why my argument to it of expanding 120 laps. I mean, no duh, they're going to try to save gas because they know they have one pit stop. That's it. And my biggest pet peeve, for example, in the opposite, in the Xfinity series, which I'm surprised somehow for the first time it feels like an eternity we didn't see. I'm surprised we didn't see cars running out of gas because these teams want to also put things to the bare limits, which again, I understand that's all fine and grand. But again, you're not going to see the pace they drop off of if you expand the size of that last stage is all I'm saying.
It's not true.
Yeah.
You go to 120 laps as the final stage, you're going to break it. You're going to do 50, 50, 55, 55, and then it's going to be a 10-lap dash just like it is.
But you could also have teams full on push and break it down in the 40 laps.
No, Timmy, they're not. They're not. I promise you they're not. Because everybody wants as little gas in the tank at the end of the thing. They want to shorten the pit stop.
If you push the pace, you're not running. By the way, too,
nobody's going to push the pace because they want as much gas.
But you got to remember, if you push the pace, the people in the back, they're going to have to push harder to save, and you're not going to be able to go Michael McDowell's distance. This is the other thing. Like Michael McDowell going 58 laps. Dale Earnhardt Jr., when he won his last Daytona 500, I mean, with a couple of cautions, I think he went, 51 laps or something like that? Like, that is ridiculous. You can't be going that slow, and you won't be going that slow, is what I'm telling you, if you elongate stage 3.
But yes, I get that point. But at the same time, no team is going to intentionally grief themselves to intentionally push this pace, because what ends up happening is you pit with 4 cars that are trying to up the pace. those 4 cars get screwed because they're not in the main pack when the rest of the people try and race for track position. We saw it in what was it? In that little thing before that, everybody pitting with 4 or 5 cars and them losing the pack and losing the draft because when they pit, they were going slower and then they start to speed it up. The pack with more cars goes faster and they're screwed. So yes, I understand that you want people are in your mind. People will push the pace. They might push the pace, but those cars in the back saving gas will always go more laps.
Well, I'll just say this. Simplest solution here, don't throw cautions for the stages. Just let the race play out naturally. And if it happens to have fuel saving when it plays out naturally, then that's just racing at the end of the day.
Totally fair.
I want to digress on this because there's another significant point of the 500 that we need to talk about. Listen, I love Justin Allgaier. He is one of the greatest of all time in the secondary series. His cup tenure has not been great. He was hustling Connor Zilisch, and yes, Zilisch made a mistake that led to that crash. Cody Ware was up there too. He had a lot of guys towards the front of that first wreck that are not used to running towards the front in the Daytona 500. And Zilisch, of course, inexperienced. He's going to start to figure things out. But Justin Allgaier was giving him the business for like 2 laps before that. And then anybody trying to pin this 20-car crash on Denny Hamlin, I know that Hamlin was making a bit of an aggressive move, but that was an awful block by Justin Allgaier in a situation where he could have just stayed with Hamlin and didn't need to be weaving around. It was single file on the top, and I mean, I don't know what he was doing, and Allgaier obviously owned up to it, and I'm not arguing that because he accepted responsibility for this wreck, Tropper, but this was just a terrible miscalculation that took out so many contenders. I mean, very frustrating, but it's just, I love Justin Allgaier, but there's really no excuse for something like that. And anybody who's pinning that on Hamlin at all, I know it was a bit aggressive for that time in the race, but I mean, come on. It's the car blocking that made an absolutely terrible block. If you're going to say it's Riley Herbst's fault for making a terrible block on Brad Keselowski, you got to use that same logic with Allgaier and Hamlin.
And there's part of me that wants to say it's a lack of experience in the Cup Series, but we all know Justin Allgaier has more experience than most of the guys in the field if you count all the series. Like, he is one of those grizzled veterans, so it's hard to make any excuses. And as I said, he owned up to it, so it's hard to make any excuses as to why he did that. I mean, really, the only thing I could think of is you're racing a special once-a-year junior motorsports entry. You have this incredible opportunity, and you're at the front of the pack trying to do whatever you can to stay at the front of the pack. Frankly, I think that's all it was. And yeah, it was a very, very poorly timed block. And in the tri-oval, literally the worst place it could have been. So that's what caused, obviously, all the damage and 20 cars involved, which is insane. But I mean, I think it's more just a racing incident than anything. Yes, if you have to pin it on someone, you got to pin it on Allgaier. It was a bad block. But I just think that's racing in the Daytona 500, in all honesty.
Now, another element to this, Tim, that I think is interesting, because it was the case almost the whole weekend, but especially the 500 and the duels, something we don't normally see was that almost all the crashes throughout the weekend happened either entering the tri-oval or through the tri-oval, which I know can be a treacherous spot, but that's usually the case more so at Talladega than Daytona. We usually don't see a ton of crashes in the tri-oval, and pretty much every single one involved poor handling off of 4 or a bad decision going through the tri-oval.
Yeah, and I mean, in the case of Allgaier's, so here's the thing. I understand kind of where he's coming from, where he thought Denny wasn't going to take the move, but this is the reason why you got to leave the space. But I'm not trying to defend Justin here, or even Connor Zilisch, for example, with his incident. But in Zilisch's defense, I mean, Allgaier is running so low off the top lane that I wouldn't expect somebody to be that tight, like that tight to me while I'm running the middle lane coming out of turn 4, and they made contact multiple times before the spin. But I think about it for Allgaier, Eddie, on that block. The reason why Justin Allgaier is not running so tight to the wall is because they don't do that in Xfinity. Why
that
don't
was going to be my point. That's
because
what I was going to say.
The bodies are completely different. You scrape the wall a little bit, your day could be done in Xfinity because the body just shreds apart. In the next gen, I mean, it's as stiff as it can get. I mean, crap, how many times did William Byron bounce off the wall yesterday and everything was all great, fine, and dandy? I mean, I could have swore, especially when he got turn down the backstretch right in front of Bowman and a couple others, I could have swore he would have bent his toe length there, but somehow he didn't, right? So either way, I just think it comes from a lot of experience in the Xfinity car, not a lot of super speedway experience in the next gen, and unfortunately it resulted in a wreck, but that's what you get with inexperience, right? And the same thing you say with Connor Zilic about being aggressive side drafting. He's going to learn it. You got to say the same exact thing no matter the amount of NASCAR experience. For Justin Allgaier, he simply doesn't have the laps in the next gen, and that's what happened. But I mean, again, the stuff happened in the tri-oval. It is what it is. Turn 4 with the wins was still very chaotic regardless, even though we didn't see anybody do what Cletus McFarland did, for example, in the truck race. But I mean, again, the wins played a definite factor, I feel, into yesterday, especially on the bottom lane, which it makes it crazy to think Tyler Reddick, even though he didn't, like, he was on the bottom lane coming to the line, but obviously he had to go back down, so he wasn't technically fully on the bottom lane the entire time. The fact that the bottom lane won, to me, was surprising because, I mean, the third lane was as strong as it's ever looked, in my opinion, these last couple of years at Daytona. But regardless, I mean, you got to give a lot of these guys the credit because this wasn't, I think it was officially, I could be wrong, but it was deemed the windiest Daytona 500 in history. So, I mean, these guys were facing very weird conditions out there. You couldn't just sit there and tandem draft like past Daytona 500s if you wanted to attempt to. So it was definitely a handful. But I think the tri-oval was just more of inexperienced situations that we saw during the race. And I'm sorry, I have to mention this because I know we'll get to the tweets of the week in a moment. But this Brian Vickers stuff is insane that you guys are what is going on? Profile pictures, Valentine's Day posts. Is this real? Is this the real Brian Vickers?
It definitely is.
Bro's lost the plot, man.
I'm sorry. I'm seeing this. Why? Why would you come back on Twitter, Brian? You know what the responses are going to be.
Well, that's why they're turned off. That's why they're turned off.
I was expecting to start that segment this early. That threw me off.
I'm sorry.
I mean, trust me, that's why I've tried to hustle through this 500 discussion because we have so many things. A lot of them involve the 500, frankly, but we have a lot of tweets of the week that we're going to have to get to. But congrats to Tyler Reddick on the win. We are going to have some more reactions in terms of the look ahead to Atlanta on Friday's show. And as we've mentioned on the show, and we'll, of course, announce officially here, we will have boots on the ground at Echo Park Speedway this weekend to cover the race. Tim Moore, Adam Tropper, they'll be taking the trip. Drew will be there too. So it should be a lot of fun for them down there. And we will have coverage all weekend long and a new episode on Friday. But before we get to the tweets, because there is a lot, this might be the craziest tweets of the week segment we've ever done. I do want to do our SeatGeek Diecast of the week, Tropper, because it involves someone who ran the Daytona 500, didn't finish third though this year, and announced he's running the Daytona 500 next year and is really milking this farewell tour that's now going to be lasting a year, but he's only running 2 races during it. But take the floor. The floor is yours, Tropper.
Thank you, Eddie. This is one that I've been wanting to do for a couple weeks now. I mean, Jimmie Johnson, one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite driver. And yes, he is officially going to be done 2 more races, San Diego, next year's Daytona. And frankly, this car has been on our rotational list of Diecast of the week for a couple weeks now. I just haven't been able to show it off. But Jimmie Johnson, I got a special one here because I found this at a thrift store last summer. It's not, I got some other sentimental ones I've had for 15 years that I'll feature on other episodes down the line. But this one I saw over the summer and it just caught my eye. I was walking by it and I'm like, wait, hold up. I walked backwards, like as stereotypical as it could get if you're finding out something cool like in a TV show. Just so happens a Jimmie Johnson 2000 Busch Series Excedrin 92 car when he was with Herzog Motorsports before any Hendrick move, before he was discovered by Jeff Gordon. And you'll notice it has the red base, which apparently is incredibly rare. In 2001, Jimmy's full-time season in the then Busch Series, he ran the blue base for the most part. He only ran a couple races, 1999 and 2000, with this red base. So this is as early as it gets in his NASCAR stock car career. Before the 7-time champion was great. A completely different series, a completely different car number, a completely different team. And there's just something about it that caught my eye. And now that he's going to be finishing his career, you might as well look up a start.
You know, I think
what year did he go flying? I said, what year did he go flying into barrels of luck?
You know, that's what I was going to say.
2000.
Yes.
But I actually looked. But right before we went on air, I actually looked at the clip. It was blue base. He did not wreck with his
Yes.
car.
I did the
Oh
same
yeah, I
thing.
remember it was blue. I just remember him taking the
Yeah,
jump.
the red base is what threw me off guard because this one's a lot rarer. He didn't run full time with this. So when I saw it, I'm like, wait, is that like I saw the 92 and I'm like, that can't be who I think it is. And then I go to the little bag that it's in like the thrift store. I take a better look and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to get this.
Because I think it's funny for a top 5 driver in NASCAR history, undisputed. The only notable thing that he ever did in the Busch Series that people talk about is ramming into the styrofoam at Watkins Glen. But it was in that
He
car
also
number.
won his one race at Chicagoland in Joliet, which ironically is one of the only tracks he never won at in Cup,
Very
I
interesting.
believe.
I wanna say something. I wanna go a little bit off topic. Why? We talk about the same thing every single time in the Xfinity series. Why are there 4 JRM cars running behind Austin Hill and they can't pass him? That was the most frustrating stage 2 I've ever watched. Sammy Smith pulls out third in line instead of running behind his 2 teammates and then can't pass. I gotta give props to Brandon Poole. He tried. He backed up, couldn't do anything because he got wrecked. Then nothing happens off of 4. Austin Hill wins. I'm tired of it. Please ban Austin Hill at plate tracks. I'm so over
He's going to win again in 5 days.
I'm going to be so happy on Saturday. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be walking out while he's doing his
or
burn,
he's going
I
to
swear.
finish second to Jesse Love. Those are the only 2 options.
If he wins,
man.
I think they said on broadcast 11 out of 15 of his wins, I
Yes.
believe. And we witnessed one of the only other ones live. We saw his Pocono win. But and that you could argue is kind of a drafting track too of how long that straightaway
I
is.
mean, just a reminder, he didn't take tires on the last stop while everybody did. He was at a tire disadvantage and won that race. That was ridiculous.
Doesn't matter. It's Austin Hill. He's the best car in the field, and nobody knows how to race against him. They don't work together, and it's the most frustrating. I really debated not watching that race, but I did.
Yeah, by the way,
It is possible to beat him. Look at what Parker Kligerman, ironically, ended up doing over the summer. Like, I don't remember what really happened to Austin Hill in that race, but the 88 won at Daytona.
what is Larry Mack's biggest thing, by the way? What does he always say?
Overtime.
No, the other one. I'm talking about the biggest saying.
We're
If you
coming.
follow, well, yeah, okay. You're kind of right. But I'm saying if you follow the leader, what happens? You're always going to be on the leader's strategy, and you're always going to be just with the leader. To beat the leader, you got to do something different. And following the Pied Piper around the track, breaking news, is not how you beat the leader. The only way you're going to beat Austin Hill and Super Speedway, guys, breaking news, and I understand I'm not the race car driver in the car, you got to work together to go around the 21 to beat the 21. But Junior Motorsports doesn't know how to do that because they just all wreck each other. And now I feel like I have this towel for another reason.
I think I have a great strategy. They all let Austin Hill go full out on the restart. They go half throttle and then just ambush him. He can't block all 4 lanes. Actually, he probably can. He'll wreck the whole field.
The Chevys are not going to turn on each other. We also didn't mention positions 1 through 20, all-time record across all 3 series. 1 through 20 in the finishing order were all the same manufacturer.
Well, because JGR's only good driver is not allowed to run super speedways right now, and there's only 2 Fords in the whole field. It's Nick Sanchez and Luke Fenhouse. That's it. There's 39 cars in the entry list for O'Reilly on Saturday, and there are 2 Fords, and one is for a part-time team that didn't exist last year, and the other one's for a full-time team that tried to sell and get out of the sport a month ago.
I mean, if Ryan Sieg was 1 position better, maybe there would have been a different outcome. I don't know. Maybe he would have went, with Allgaier, and if, of course, Jordan Anderson's shoving through Allgaier, which people that want to blame Justin Allgaier. Jordan Anderson.
Allgaier try and pass?
Allgaier wasn't trying to pass anybody. He was trying to push Poole, and Jordan Anderson was slamming through him and then picked his alliance. So, that's the other thing you got to remember, too. Jordan Anderson's the reason why we're all sitting here crying about this in the first place as well. Outside the fact that JRM cars can't work together.
Listen, I love the O'Reilly series. I still think it's the best overall product of the 3 series, but the exception is the 6 drafting track races. And if anybody was hoping for something better at Atlanta, first of all, Austin Hill's probably going to win. Second of all, we know that the Xfinity cars aren't even that good at Atlanta in the first place. So this.
I'll have my article halfway written, by the way, this weekend. I guarantee you. I'm pretty darn confident.
Rick's going to get another win at his home tracks.
I'm calling out a hot take, and this is for the end of the year. by the end of the season, the Xfinity Series will be the worst out of the three series. I have hopes that the Truck Series will be the best with this new format and RAM and all that stuff. But I'm excited for Cup. I didn't get to say that.
Tropper, just so you know, the the August Daytona race. The only reason why he wasn't in the mix is because they had a mechanical failure at the end of stage 2.
Oh
Yeah, I
no,
remember that.
terrible.
Oh,
Anyways.
I was on vacation during that race. That's why, because I remember, like, I don't remember a thing from that. That was when I was in Hawaii.
I say only the car going wrong can stop Austin Hill from winning a plate race.
They should have let him
Literally.
step in Zilich's car instead of Parker Kligerman.
Mhm.
But on that note, let's get to our tweets of the week for the last 15 minutes, because there is a lot of stuff from Daytona we have to talk about. I don't even know which one to start with, and then we got Bathurst too. I'll save Bathurst for the end. Let's tie our loose ends on NASCAR first. Let's start with the O'Reilly series, because Natalie Decker's second most noteworthy moment of the weekend was ARCA breaking into Sam Mayer, Tim. There was a lot. She was in the headlines on Friday because of
I don't understand. First off, I have so many questions. First off, about the photo. I mean, I asked, why is Bert's toenails painted? I was a little bit surprised by that.
A couple weeks ago, it wasn't bad.
Well, the other thing is the background of that photo looks so fake. First off, if you look at the background, Ryan Preece's backup car is there. I didn't know Ryan Preece's 2025 backup car showed up to Daytona. Anybody notice that? Because it wasn't the scheme they were running that weekend.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason why you have to know it's that weekend is because the hauler right next to it is Cody Ware's 51 in the Chevrolet. But then, I don't know, it could be me because, again, I haven't been to Daytona a little bit. But I'll put it like this. Is it me, or did the stands also look so like video game-esque fake in that photo? I mean, again, it could have been the resolution and everything, but everything looked so wrong, Photoshop fake in that photo. But there was that. And I'm not even going to get into the depths of the podcast, but Natalie, I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? You can't paint a worse picture of yourself, of your husband, of anything more than what you did right there. And she, like, I don't even know. I don't want to get into it. It's just, you embarrassed yourself once this week, and then you go and you do what you did, crying about Sam Mayer. Oh, I'm sorry, camera's over here. Crying about Sam Mayer. Listen, I'm just going to keep it blunt. She has another race at Pocono. You'll crash out of Pocono anyways. I'm sorry. I'm tired of seeing her, Haley Deegan, get all these opportunities. You've had your chance at NASCAR. You failed at it miserably. I'm tired of seeing about the fake news about her, the first mother to come back in the NASCAR series. Listen, I'm all for women succeeding in sports, but breaking news, the future in NASCAR is Isabel Robusto. And listen, I think Catherine Legg deserves another darn opportunity to get a chance at the Cup Series because she really performed well for BJ McLeod last year. Not you. You're not even an Xfinity has-been. You're not even a Truck Series has-been. You failed in Kyle Busch equipment, embarrassed yourself there too, by the way. You don't belong driving in the NASCAR, any series, quite frankly, not even the ARCA Menard series. And I'm just going to put it as blunt as that because I'm at a loss with Natalie Decker. And I know Haley Deegan technically hasn't even done anything this season to warrant this shade at her. But it's bad to watch, and it's bad to watch people keep on getting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity just because of appearance is what it feels like. And that's as blunt as I can be on that.
Now, from one controversy to another, first of all, shout out, NASCAR has been in the headlines a lot in the mainstream media from the Daytona 500. It was a very good race for Daytona 500 standards, and of course a popular winner, and everybody talking about Michael Jordan being a winner. Now, the thing that is really driving me crazy here is, of course, anytime NASCAR gets popular for something, there's got to be something stupid that comes up that becomes the talking point. If you go back on the video, we were talking about this before you go on air. If you go back, instead of the stupid clip that was recorded off of somebody's TV that went everywhere, they doused Tyler Reddick's whole crew with ice water, including his 5-year-old son, who was covered in ice. And Michael Jordan was right there and helping him get the ice out of his shirt. That is it. I have seen at Darlington Michael Jordan hanging out with Tyler Reddick's wife and Tyler Reddick's kids while the 45 was on the track in the pit box. I mean, we have seen this before. This is not something new. This is completely ridiculous. That is getting blown out of proportion. Go back on the video and look on it. Michael Jordan is not in the files like a certain driver that Tim referenced 10 minutes ago.
I mean,
come on.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Michael Jordan looked like a father there, in my opinion, of how he was handling it.
Yeah,
and,
obviously joking around.
Yes, I mean it is ridiculous, and the fact that they even hit the waves of WFAN today and they talked about it tells you how bad this world is on social media. That's all I'm gonna say on it. But no, I'm sorry.
How I see it is Michael Jordan was messing with Tyler Reddick's son, obviously trying to get Tyler Reddick's son to turn around by scratching his back and doing that. Because if Tyler Reddick's son turns around, which he probably does because it's probably cropped out of the video, he probably laughs and messes around with Michael Jordan because it's just a little kid and Michael Jordan knows the kid. So it's like, I don't know. Obviously, these Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts are just trying to get clicks by clipping something out of context. But let's be real, guys. There is nothing malicious about it. It's just Michael Jordan being Michael Jordan.
It's just ridiculous that people believe it, though. And it's the same thing with Bubba Wallace crap posting on Facebook. It gets to a point. You really think Bubba said these things on a weekly basis?
I mean, but this is
anybody with a brain. Anybody with a brain.
People believe that picture of Michael Jordan looking like he's 30 years old, sobbing, holding the trophy is real.
Oh, I did see that. I did see that.
There are real pictures of him in victory lane. And by the way, because listen, I think Fox did a surprisingly very solid job all around with the Daytona 500 coverage.
Did we get side by side for every commercial, by the way?
I think we did.
We saw
pretty sure.
We saw pretty much everything.
And it was nowhere near the capacity of last year where it's every 10 laps. I think the last commercial was 18, 19 to go.
Yes,
I thought they were getting ready to go to commercial with the pit stops with 12 or 13, and then I was shocked that they didn't.
Yes, and then there was all those none of those goofy things. Because Tropper, I remember watching the 500 at your crib 2 years ago, and with 18 to go, they're showing Shane Van Gisbergen and Daniel Suarez mini golfing and the Wendy's thing with Jamie Little and eating Frosties. I want to watch the race, but
Almost forgot about that. That was insane with under 20 to go. I mean. You know what? We've said it before on the show. Any improvement is a major improvement for Fox. And honestly, like you guys said, I am not going to critique this too much because we got side-by-side commercials during Green Flag Racing. The commentating didn't even sound too bad. Honestly, Mike Joy sounded, especially for that final call, sounded a little bit like his former self a little bit, there was a lot of energy. So I have no problem with the way Fox did their coverage this week. I just hope they can do it for the 12 or 13 more and a half.
But the one thing I was going to say was that there was no need for them to zoom into Michael Jordan so closely during the interview. I could practically feel Michael's secret stuff from Space Jam watching my TV. I mean, it was a little much, but
that's like zooming in on the cars. Why not zoom in on the personalities?
Yeah.
Going back to the Fox broadcast booth, I felt like this was the first time in the big event where the two co-commentators, Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer, finally let Mike Joy, do his thing. I mean, I feel like Clint Boyer's always added his little touch by, with his noises and going oh and stuff like that. And they finally let him have it.
I'm just thinking about this now. Did Kevin Harvick do any of his sayings yesterday? I don't remember.
Probably. I didn't watch the whole race.
At one point.
Okay, there we go. Well, let's see. The other thing, too, that was the first yesterday that went very under the radar. Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick agreed on a winner who ultimately didn't win the race, but they both agreed on Ryan Blaney was going to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
It's like a miracle.
And he didn't.
Now, there is one more thing from the Daytona 500 we have to touch on our tweets of the week that surfaced today. Now, listen, I have heard of people who have it in their wills or whatever to have their ashes spread in different places. And listen, I do not know what the context of this deceased person was. But there is a video that is very clear of, as the cars were crossing the line, some fan attempting to throw some deceased ashes towards the track. Now, as we've talked about, it was the windiest day at the Daytona 500 ever, and you have cars going 190 miles an hour 10 feet away from you that kick up some air towards the grandstands themselves. So if you know where I'm going here, it gets thrown and it just boomerangs back at the guy's face.
I don't think any of them ended up on the track.
No, none of
which
it.
is the worst. I feel bad laughing about it, but it's just like maybe do it when they're not passing by. But I mean, hey, maybe in the will it says as they're taking the checker flag, throw
As
it.
they're
And
crashing
where it goes,
coming
where
to
it
the
goes.
checkered flag. You can't forget that part.
Maybe last year.
People. Oh, sorry, Drew. I was just
No,
saying,
you're good,
people are
you're
saying
good.
he should be permanently banned. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably not great throwing ashes onto a track, but at the same time, I mean, the damage was mitigated. Like we said, it didn't hit the track as much
It
as
hit
I hate
him.
to say
It
it.
hit himself. It was self-inflicted.
Yeah, and it's on video, so I mean, it's hopefully that person sees it as a good story to tell and like has their own closure, not taken completely the other way, being online, but it is what it is. I say we just move past that one.
Well, speaking of deceased remnants ending up on someone at a racetrack, and I
Gosh.
cannot believe that is a sentence that has been said on Motorsports Today. But we got to go to Bathurst because they had the GT World Challenge at Mount Panorama, 12-hour race this week, and we never talk about the GT World Challenge. But there happened to be, by the way, shout out to Mercedes, they won, and Valentino Rossi, who used to be the race MotoGP, now races cars, not motorcycles, and he ended up on the podium. So those are two interesting wrinkles. But two crazy things happened in this race. And the first one involves Chris Mize, who thankfully is okay, but had to take a couple of showers because he hit an animal, and this was in Australia. It's not like he hit a squirrel or a bird, which we've seen in NASCAR Formula One a few times. He hit a kangaroo, a full-grown kangaroo, and the damage to the car and the picture of his helmet after, I mean, my goodness.
I'm glad I haven't seen the video, and I really hope there isn't. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
there isn't
isn't.
video. Okay, so just let me clarify. Since
It was at night.
Yeah, so it's
What I'm glad
before
about
the
there's no
sun's coming
video.
up. I'm saying no, there is video, but it's not of him hitting the kangaroo. It's of the onboard of the car behind him. That I mean, there's some remnants that lands, but you can't tell what that remnants is that lands on the car.
Mhm.
You're not great, but slightly less disturbing
Yes.
angle.
Yeah, because let's be honest with how the internet is. That's gonna get clipped and posted everywhere, and nobody really wants to see that on Twitter. Nobody wants to see that on their feed. So I mean, let that
Yeah.
kangaroo rest in
It's just the
peace.
fact that it's Australian, the most random thing, because you think the Australian outback, the deserts, the kangaroos. I mean, just thinking out loud, I would go on vacation there. That seems like a cool thing I would want to see, but not seeing one getting demolished on a racetrack would
I mean,
also be nice.
I don't know if it was this year. Maybe. Well, obviously, it wasn't this year. Could have been past ones, but like to my knowledge, they used to have like during like the warm up, the formation lap, everything. They used to have kangaroos like leading the line around. Like I don't know. I could be wrong. That could be fake media, but I've heard that's happened in the past. Is all I'm saying.
Something
I'm
to
not
look
saying
up.
that is one of those
This
kangaroos.
This one had no affiliation with the event. I don't think. Kind of
No,
came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
no,
apparently
no.
it was
not
in
expected.
it was apparently in one of the only parts in the track where there's no catch fencing. That's how it got on the track because I heard from one guy that I'm in a Discord with that there's fencing all around the track and that's unfortunately happened to be one part of the track where there wasn't.
I do want to say
Can the
though.
kangaroo hop over the fencing too? Like, depending on how high.
I don't think they would be able to because that fencing's like what, almost 20 feet high.
I mean, I guess depends like where on the track
where the
it is,
mounts
but-
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I say, I do want to say though, you got to give Ford a lot of credit here because the amount of safety that has gone into those cars and making them better and everything. I mean, in a highway, I'm just going to be transparent. If I hit a bird or a wild turkey flying just at the wrong time and it flew through my windshield and I'm driving 70 miles an hour down the highway, I'm more than likely dead if it goes directly straight in front of me. The fact that they hit a full-size kangaroo, and yes, I understand, it got smashed to smithereens, disintegrated. But my point is regardless, is the fact that it came into the windshield and it gave flex and didn't fully just come straight through. I think tells a lot about how the sport in general, not just GT racing or NASCAR, IndyCar, etc., and F1, just how much safety is going in the world of racing, because that could have ended even in further catastrophe than
Yes,
what it did.
which is good. But then on the flip side of safety, and then on the flip side of everything we said in terms of the Daytona 500, which, listen, I forgot to say it in our 500 discussion. I'll just say it. I'm just glad that it was consistent, that they let things go. If you're just going to be consistent one way or another, so we know what's going to happen when a wreck happens, that's all I've been asking for in the show for the last 2 years. And I'm happy it was consistent during Speed Weeks. Now, of course, there's people who can play devil's advocate about being cautious with race control because of what else happened in this race, where a car was just stopped in a blind corner for 30 seconds, and then the leader plows in. He ends up with a fracture in his back. I mean, how are there no flags?
Yeah, there was a flag waving, but the issue was, and this is what I kind of read on Twitter, that car had been having radio issues. So while the spotter or, the crew might have been saying there's a car parked, he can't hear because there's radio issues. Now, if a car is stopped and is not moving, there should be red flags and there should be red lights on the track or caution lights on the track. But why are we letting this happen? I mean, he destroyed that guy sitting still. I mean, thankfully he's okay, and it's only, I guess, only his back, but like, geez, man, it's just insane.
They say it's only his back, but just a reminder. I mean, I think about guys like Denny Hamlin, or even just most recently, it was more towards the upper back neck issue with Alex Bowman, for example. You don't just bounce back from that and come back into
100%.
a car and you're at 100%. So it could be. I mean, if sometimes there's a full heel. I mean, talk about Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon talked about all the pain in his back, especially after that Vegas crash years back when he was in that Nicorette green car that everybody remembers. It takes a big toll out of you, and it may not be guaranteed that you get that consistency or that good feeling of healthiness ever again, and it could end his career ultimately. You never know. So I just worry about that. But I think the other thing too is, I mean, you kind of just hit the nail on the head in regards to there's got to be red flags or lights or something. I mean, this is where, again, I'm not trying to be a NASCAR favoritist, but this is one thing I love that NASCAR does. If they feel something is wrong immediately, they will throw a full course caution and stop things immediately. We don't see that really in GT road racing as often because obviously everything's sectionalized. But I'm sorry, when you're at a narrow racetrack like this, if somebody is pinned against the wall, something needs to be done and needs to be done immediately, because I'm sorry, somebody could have been killed there. Yeah. Talk about somebody could have been killed there. And that, I mean, Drew, you and I have both done it. For example, I know simulation is very different in real life, but going down that downhill sector, how many times are you almost crapping yourself going down there because it's on edge, right?
I mean, you're like sideways down there if you're going full speed, and I mean, it's kind of hard to be paying attention to anything other than the track when you're going full out down there, and your car is already stepping out, and you're racing. I mean, the leader was right behind him. This dude's in the lead. Of course, he's not going to be paying 100% attention to the lights. And once again, I have to, go back to it. Unfortunately, he was having radio issues, and which is why probably he hit him and had no idea that there was a car sitting there because he didn't have the correct tools at his disposal.
Yeah, well, it was a crazy week at Bathurst. It was a crazy weekend at Daytona, but that's going to wrap up this episode of Motorsports Today. Reminder, we will be back on Friday to have a little more look back at Daytona, get you set for race 2 at Atlanta. Also, only a week and a half from IndyCar, 2.5 weeks from F1. It's all going to pick up very, very soon. Find us on the socials at Motorsports Today, on the web at motorsportstoday.net. And Adam Tropper, Tim Moore, and Drew Jewah will all be there at Atlanta, as well as we'll have some coverage from the weekend, so stay tuned for that. But for Adam, Tim, and Drew, I'm Eddie Kalegi signing off of this episode of Motorsports Today. Congrats to Tyler Reddick on winning the Daytona 500, and we'll talk to you again on Friday.